Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining our Thursday live stream or Friday, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Kyler Cheatham. I'm honored to be your host today from The Confluential, and this is The Confluential Live. As usual on Thursdays, I'm joined by Adam Cheatham, our CEO here at The Confluential. And today we actually have kind of a special live stream where we're going to talk about utilizing more emerging technologies like AI for things like quality assurance and implementation. But today we're going to focus on our new selection tool, which is actually an AI driven shortlist selection tool that can help you get an ERP shortlist in seconds instead of paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to a selection firm. So it's a new kind of disruptive tool. We'll get a lot of different feedback, I'm sure, on it. But today we're excited to be able to share it with you and just talk about the importance of kind of leveraging our newer technologies in order to bring consulting and technology to best support our client community. So with that, before I introduce Adam and he talks a little bit about our tool, it's called River AI. I just want to remind you that we can see wherever you're commenting from today. So we stream live on a variety of different platforms from Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of the fun live platforms we have, and our system aggregates all of those comments. So we see them live, and really this is about your questions, your comments, to bring more transparency to the conversation around technology within businesses is our overall mission. So I invite you to give all the good, bad, the ugly feedback today. While we're talking, you can also scan the QR code up here to my left and try our new AI tool called River AI while we're actually talking here, and let us know what your shortlist results are, if they are kind of matching what you've seen before. It narrows it down by industry and all kinds of different data points, and it is not ChatGPT, so everyone can relax right now. We know that you can't get a short list accurately from ChatGPT, but this tool is actually utilizes what we call our Hatch database. So we can give you all of our decades of experiences and give you that type of good, strong recommendations for your industry and just your needs, overall pain points. So with that, drop what you're thinking in the comments, drop what your comments are in the comments, and we'll address all of those as we go here. If you're watching after the live, we will always go back in and address your comments at any point. So with that, go ahead and drop where you're joining in from today. And if you've utilized AI in any of your selection work or any of your technology, just overall discovery, what that relationship looks like, we'd love to be able to hear from you. I know we already got some chats coming in. So with that, Adam, why don't you give us just a quick introduction and overview of why you kind of tasked our team to formulate this tool, why you think it's important and need in the marketplace?
Yeah, so welcome everybody. My name's Adam Cheatham. I'm the CEO of The Confluential. And, it was, to be honest, the moment that this kind of idea came to me, I was talking with a client and I was helping them with their software selection. And they had a pretty complex set of needs. They didn't know if they needed ERP or MES or one or both or what. So we went through this process of trying to figure out who we were going to send our proposals to, and we were sending like 9 vendors, and it's just kind of one of those moments like this is too many. We should be able to do better than this. And after we did get things narrowed to a short list, one of my colleagues put the short list into ChatGPT and said, "Here's what we should know." And I was like, I've been telling you that for ages. I already told you that, but fine. But just kind of was we can do this better, we can do this faster, and we can focus on the things that matter. Because at the end of the day, the other part of this that's a difference maker to me is that I've been in implementations that start from the beginning. I've been in implementations that are remediated from the middle. I've been in expert witness disasters that are a total train wreck that have been constructed on what happened from the end. And it's never the software.
Yeah.
Software's always fine. It's never, did I pick the wrong software? Am I hopeless in the software that I chose? The answer is never that. It's always, well, you have all of these other issues as an organization. You didn't prepare well for this. You signed a contract and then expected this implementation to be done in 3 months when it's an 18-month project. No wonder things went wrong. So it comes back to the concept that if the software doesn't matter, we should focus on what does. Now, the software matters some, right? It's a multi-million-dollar investment for a lot of organizations. It's certainly six-figure investment for any organization that's implementing ERP with any sense of purpose. So that matters. You want to do your due diligence in making that decision. But why spend all of that money and why focus so much on making that decision if you're not preparing to do a good job? And that's the part that matters. It's always because somebody didn't do a good job. That's where all failures come from. And so let's focus on that. Let's give you a tool that can get people in a place where we can at least narrow, right? And then that way you've got a competitive list of, I should talk to these folks as opposed to the entire ERP industry. What a waste of time. I can talk to these 3 or 4 vendors and start narrowing in on which one I want to do business with, which one wants to do business with me, and focus on getting my homework done beforehand and all my prep work. So that's really the premise of the River AI tool and how it is we want this to be viewed. I certainly suspect that there are vendors out there who are already trying to figure out where they stack up. And honestly, that doesn't, how each vendor stacks up against each other isn't the point here.
Yeah.
But what it is that we've created a knowledge base that's informed by decades of ERP experience, a lot of our own really blood, sweat, and tears into how we build this database. And then we are always looking to continue building the knowledge base. So if you find something in it that doesn't quite look right to you, let's teach it. You know, it will always learn more until the end of time. It will always be learning more. That's the point of AI, which is why it's going to be so effective. And we've got a lot to talk about in it today. I've even shared some of the stories on how we followed our own methodology for building this tool and becoming more agile in the deployment of it, those types of things. But looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Very excited.
what's that?
I said I'm very excited.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, who isn't? We're always excited on Thursday live streams, but this one in particular, for sure. So just, to cut through any misconceptions, how did you get the data sets for this AI tool? Because what it is it is a chatbot, right? But it's a custom proprietary chatbot with data sets that are all built around the analyses of ERP implementations in general, into which we'll kind of get into the questions that it asked you. But I just want you to kind of bust through any conceptions of, like, this is a scrolling database that goes in and scrolls the internet and all of those different things.
Look, what's on the internet is important, right? That's what vendors want to say about themselves. But that's not the only thing that's important. And if you focus on what's on the internet, you'll buy a NetSuite every time. And NetSuite isn't the greatest software fit for every scenario. I love NetSuite, don't get me wrong. I feel like one day, as a provider of professional services, we're likely to end up on NetSuite because it's a very good fit for our industry. It's also not a very good fit for a lot of different things, like heavy manufacturing. So what we've done is we've created a database that compares all of the most significant top vendors on the market across process functions. When it comes down to it, your ERP is going to run processes for you. And our database compares those processes and what it is each system does and what their capacity for fitting those processes is on a level of complexity and a level of comprehensiveness, right? The idea being, if your system fits a particular business function, process manufacturing is a good example of one that some businesses do great, some vendors do great with, and some vendors don't. If you got great in that, you score high. If you don't do well in that, you don't score so high as a software vendor. And we go through the whole slew of processes that are run soup to nuts in an ERP. All the quote to cash processes, all the procure to pay, finance to report or consolidate to report, plan to produce, warehousing, all those things. And we compare them. I have a scoring chart for every vendor. And then we do also source from a number of different areas that are more not just a database itself, but a knowledge base where we create some of our own content. We consume vendor content, and vendors, I encourage you to send us
Yeah.
your content for us to
Always.
review and put in. Right? I'm not going to take a vendor that says the only ERP out there that's worth it is ours, and all of the other ones can't do this, that, and the other one. I'm not as much worried about that side of it as I am what can you do and how do you do it, so that we can teach our tool all of the new and great things, because every ERP is continuing to grow along the way, and that's something that's important to keep up to date with.
Yeah, for sure. I think understanding that the functionalities and the updates of new systems and platforms are constantly changing. And the goal here is to not have any biases in that. It's to, give a complete tool without biases. So I know we have kind of a lot of questions in here that goes into the specifics, which please keep them coming. We'll get to all of them. But talk about a little bit about how you narrowed it down, because take us through kind of what different questions it asks you and how you
Yeah.
narrowed and chose those questions as qualifiers in getting to a short list.
Well, and this is one of the things that I think is also feeds into the thought process on this. I've been doing software selections in this for a very, very long time. And I've been on very large software selections. I've been on very small software selections. And at the end of the day, what I would do often is start a project thinking, I know where the short list is going. And I was almost always spot on not just what the short list was, but what software is going to win from the very beginning. Why? And then you get to the point where why are we charging so much for something that we already know the answers to? You start asking that question. Well, that's a part of our revenue model. That's how we make money. Like, that's stupid. You already know the answer. You want to charge how much money? You want me to tell that client it's going to cost that much money to do that when I already know the answer?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work that goes into it, right? It's not just saying what software should I pick. There's a lot of work that goes into understanding how your processes come together, where it is your processes are going to change, how it is your people are going to accommodate that change, how all of that's going to fit into your overall strategic objectives. Those are the important pieces of the puzzle that we should be focusing on. Not how can I get as much work as possible to produce a single answer that I already know. And frankly, that my team's going to run through ChatGPT anyway. I would be shocked. I think you'll be shocked to find out how many of your selection consultants are putting your requirements in ChatGPT and giving you the answer from that.
Yeah.
That's what I think is happening out there. That's frankly, I know that's what's happening out there.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all people to do it. And
Yeah.
that's not fair. You're charging a lot. Like, I can put my own requirements in ChatGPT and get an answer, and I can save your salary doing it. Why?
20
Get
grand.
the things that are worth money, the
Yeah.
things that require independent, critical thinking, and focus on that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So knowing that there's kind of this bloating factor and this overall just, service that lacks integrity at this point, because there are many data points. It's just kind of about organizing those and adding the qualitative and
Mhm.
quantitative data that comes with agnostic experience, provider agnostic experience, that comes in there. So talk about the different user experience. So we go in
Mhm.
and it says, like, let's get started. It tells you a little bit about the Hatch database.
Mhm.
Tell us why you're considering a new ERP. So then
Yeah.
you put in what? Take us through kind of that experience real quick.
Yeah. So I my vision for this tool is that people can talk to River AI the way they've talked to me in the past, about their challenges, right? I um, I love having conversations with folks, set up 30, 45 minutes, 60 minutes and talk about just talk to me about what's going on, right? Where are your pain points? What are your key requirements? What's unique to you? What is your competitive advantage? What are your objectives? What do you expect ERP to do for you? Right? Where are the areas you expect improvements? What
Mhm,
makes you unique, as a business?
mhm,
And how large are you? What industry are you in? Those types of things that are really the pieces that are going to dictate, 95% of what it is your organization is going to do. Um, Good to see you, John. Thanks for joining. I'm glad that you're on. You're one of the folks that, helped me think of this, so I appreciate that you're here because you guys have just shown hands down how it's the quality that makes a
mhm,
difference. And I should remind me to tell the story of how I met John Bird in this type of thing, here in a little bit. But if you give me the answers to those questions, you give those to River AI. That's the idea. Because if you gave them to me, I'd be able to give you a list
mhm,
pretty easily. So why should you have to talk to me? Why can't you just get that yourself? You
mhm,
know, I don't get me wrong. I'd love to talk to you about this stuff. I'm a weird nerd about these types of things. But if you put that information into our tool
mhm,
and you ask it the questions that you would ask a consultant, it will understand them and it will use that as information to be able to produce a short list.
mhm,
Again, a short list, right? I don't want to be out there pretending that I know the perfect system for you off of
mhm,
a very quick 5 minute chat bot discussion. That's not fair to you. You deserve more attention than
mhm,
that. You deserve the attention of software vendors to be able to make them show you what they can do and make them earn your business. But what you don't deserve is to have somebody make you wait an exorbitant amount of time, charge you an exorbitant amount of money to simply say, here is something that my consultants got from ChatGPT. Get it
mhm,
from a reputable source who can keep their microphone on the desk. And that's just teasing. Get it from a reputable source that has experience in ERP and a database in ERP. So, at the end of the day, the questions that we ask are going to be um, why are you looking at ERP? Why make the change now? What are your goals from ERP? What types of pain points do you have? How big of a business do you have? And what are you looking for? Are you in ERP today? What is your industry? Those types of questions are what it's going to ask. Things like how many employees, just the things that give our tool a way of knowing what the size, scope, and nature of your business is so that it can understand what your requirements are likely to be and start to help push you into something that's a good short list that fits. Encourage you guys to give it a shot and give it a try,
mhm,
uh, so that you can see for yourself. But the idea really is to give you a chance to have a conversation with a tool that can understand and provide you with live feedback that's easy and free. It should be free, right? You can get it from ChatGPT, you can get it from anywhere else, but the difference between that and us is that those things don't focus just on the ERP data that matters. They focus on the entire internet, which includes a lot of ERP information that matters and just as much, if not more, ERP information that doesn't.
mhm. Okay, let's get into some of the questions because it is a chatbot tool, so you can talk to it. So you could do
Mhm.
things like give an existing shortlist as well. There's things that you could potentially do to compare the two systems, but it all comes down to you getting that custom shortlist, and then you have a consultation call because we know that a shortlist only means a couple of things, right? And then you have to get really the human factor of business analysis to
Yes.
understand those types of results. So this is kind of fast tracking you through going and
Mhm.
paying a bunch of consulting hours for a short list that should really be pretty easy for someone to give to you. Like, for example, we have a question here. So this tool allows you to compare Sage Intact and NetSuite on your shortlist. This would be someone that might be considering going from QuickBooks to a
Mhm.
new ERP
Yes.
system and those types of things. So you absolutely could compare those two. But I do encourage you because a lot of times what we see is biases already going into the shortlist process.
Mhm.
They already know they need SAP because they've heard of SAP. And we come in and say, yeah, SAP is a great system, but you're a $50 million organization. It's going to be totally overkill for you and very, very complex and very, very expensive. So when you go into utilizing a tool like this, let yourself be curious, right, between these two types of systems. But it's really great for the SMB market that don't have a lot of budget to pay consultants to look at shortlists. They also don't have a lot of experience in
Mhm.
new ERP systems. So that's a great question when it comes to
Well,
these specific.
and a great point.
Mhm,
Yeah, what this tool is going to do is it's going to compare your requirements to tools like Sage Intact and NetSuite, and then let you know whether or not those tools belong on your short list and what other tools do. Um, even to the point of a lot of times there will be tools on there that you've never heard of,
mhm.
or you're not up to date on, so you didn't think of them, and those are oftentimes can become the ones that win. I'm in the middle of an ERP selection right now where the client didn't even know the software that they're evaluating
Mhm,
existed.
mhm. That happens all the time.
They
Yeah.
never knew it ever existed at all, and now they're in a spot where they're about to buy it.
Mhm,
What a great success story for somebody
mhm,
that could have known about that far earlier from something
mhm.
that was able to provide a bit more information. So there's a
Yeah,
there's a lot that's out there that
yeah.
we
And
can
I'll
help.
just add to that real quick because that's a good example. Even if you already have an ERP system and you're utilizing this tool to kind of look at other systems, it is an ERP tool, but there's nothing wrong with considering
Mhm.
ancillary systems. We have,
Mhm.
especially large organizations, often run two ERP systems or have an ERP system that's running core operations that integrates with an MES, like Adam says in this example of one of our clients that we work with. So it's definitely something that you want to consider too. We have a lot of food and beverage questions here, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Food and beverage is a very niche area to look at. So I'm going to choose this one from your channel. Actually, I can see when they're paired to Adam's channel versus mine or the confidential channel. If you're in the food and beverage industry, would the top three ERP providers be Epicor, NetSuite, and SAP? And that totally depends, right? It completely
Um,
depends on what
yeah.
you're looking
And
at. But no, probably not those three. So no, I mean, that's when we walk in. This isn't a perfect example of like when we were to sit down in a meeting and someone says, because they often say, like, well, these are the top three systems we're looking at. And just we know that, Infor should absolutely be on that list. There's, Epicor versus Infor in food and beverage. Infor, is going to win 9 times out of 10 because they have the recipe piece of it. But it really depends on what you do in food and beverage. Do you actually make the food and beverage in your facility, or do you distribute it, or what do you actually do in that type of industry? So very interesting.
And how big are you, right? Like there's so much out there in food and beverage ERP, right? Some of the ones that I've seen be real successful in that space, Infor is a great one. They offer fantastic traceability. That's a key component of it, right? When it comes down to food and beverage, you need to be able to trace where it came from all the way back to the beginning and then blow it back out all the way to the end, right? So if you have, you guys see onion recalls all the time, right? And then eventually, like somebody says onions, we have it's not salmonella, it's something else.
Listeria.
Outbreak with onions or romaine lettuce, and then everybody freaks out that somebody got romaine lettuce from Costco, and now I got to go and get rid of all my onions and lettuce I got from Costco, and then they trace that all the way back to where it came from, and then they find out these are the batches. These are the exact batches of onions or lettuce or whatever, and then they blow that all the way forward. Where did they get sold to? At first, it's a wide net, right? Nobody wants to get food poisoning. It's terrible. If you haven't had it, lucky you. It's terrible. But I did actually get food poisoning from romaine lettuce one time. So
at a client meeting, the
at
entire
a
team
client
did.
meeting, yeah, it
Yeah,
was
at the
terrible.
demos.
It was miserable, but they trace it all the way back and then they blow it all the way forward. First you cast a wide net, yeah. And anyway, that's beside the point. Traceability and knowing where these things come from, quality in knowing where those things are important. ERP is such a great tool in food and beverage and being able to handle those things, regulatory needs and all that stuff. So when you start thinking about food and beverage, Infor should be on the list. A lot of people say Aptian should be on the list. Aptian is more of a Microsoft-based product, so it's more like Microsoft should be on the list. And things like Just Food ERP is included in that. Consider Decom.
Yeah.
Decom's a great process manufacturer. There are lots of them that you should be thinking about when it comes to food and beverage and traceability. And a good bit of it happens to be more oriented towards how big are you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And just
And where are you located in the world? What is your food compliance
that's another
needs
great
for
point.
that?
If you're a $50 million local food distributor who does hamburgers or whatever, is SAP S4HANA going to meet every single one of your requirements? Absolutely. But you know what? They're going to be wildly expensive and a waste of money for you. You can do better on a smaller system. So that's part of what it is we want to be able to figure out. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one is just kind of a follow-up to that. Would the shortlist include for food and beverage, Epicor and Oracle? Maybe. But again, food and beverage for this tool is a great way to just learn about systems you've never heard before. So if you have a niche industry, a lot of times this tool is going to give you things like food ERP and those you've never really heard of before that are in your specific area. Especially if you're a smaller company, it will weed out the SAPs or the Oracles because they're just overkill for you. And you don't need to spend $6 million a year in license when you're, only $50 million in revenue. Not that that's not a good sized company. It's just not the right fit. And so learning about what should I even be considering is a huge piece of that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, all of these things are good, are great questions. We've got a ton of what about this industry? What about this software package? And at the end of the day, the answer to most of them is that it depends, and probably not. Like I like this if you're a small or medium sized manufacturer, would the top two be Acumatica or Odoo? And both of those are good packages. They both have a ton of functionality. But when we start thinking about Acumatica, Odoo, and in this question, retail, D365, SAP, Odoo, NetSuite, you could come up with a lot of different things on that.
Mm-hmm.
And the point isn't that should my industry focus on these particular
Mm-hmm.
ones. It's what should my business be? If you're
Mm-hmm.
in retail, SAP might be right for you.
Yeah.
NetSuite, like you could find a retail company where the best fit of software is for any of these.
Yeah.
You should look into it. Odoo is difficult to
Mm-hmm.
implement for some organizations because it requires a whole lot more hand-holding, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be more involved in writing the actual code. D365 has a wealth of options. You could do
Mm-hmm.
so much with it. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
good thing for some companies. For other
Mm-hmm.
companies, they need something more like NetSuite that is
Mm-hmm.
a look, this is how our system does
Yeah.
it, and you don't have options.
Mm-hmm.
SAP is great for massive organizations because they do so much and can handle so much complexity. So I think at the end of the day, you think about these things, and you think about the strengths of each. You narrow the short list is what we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to help people do. That's the point. It's not a which one should we pick. I'm not going to tell you which software is going to be best for your business
Mm-hmm.
without a more careful consideration because I don't know. Nobody does. It's at the end of the day, what I can tell you is that I can be very accurate with the short list of things, and this is where we want to go with it. So
Mm-hmm.
we should encourage people to go ahead and try it, give it a shot, and if you don't like it, tell us why. And
Yeah.
so I think that's useful. Um,
So what about this one? Or sorry, I think we have very similar questions here. Is the tool specifically for people looking for best of breed model, monolithic,
that's
or
a
both?
good.
Yeah.
So this question is for people who are looking. This tool is for people who are looking for a particular tool in ERP uh, to service all of their overall needs. That's what this tool is for. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking at best of breed, you're not going to get a ton of the
Yeah.
answers that you're looking for from this. You're going to get a more singular answer, and that's okay. If you're looking for best of breed, that's a different type of approach that we need to kind of figure out how to get into, and would love to know why you're considering best of breed.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a particular way of looking at things.
And I think, for this piece, considering, an open ERP architecture, microservices, an Odoo base that's more modular, those types of questions are great questions to ask in your consulting call, your shortlist review call, because,
Mhm.
like, hey, I went through this. This is what it's saying in my core system. I want to know what other systems I could look at that would be more modularly based, that might fit my organization to be more agile and flexible. And then you can ask those questions. We see a lot of people misunderstand agile and flexible for less maintenance. That is not at all the case. That's quite the opposite. So when you have
Yeah.
an open source system, that's super cool. Odoo has, a cult following, really, and a great developer network. But you need to have the internal IT competencies in order to oversee a system like that, because it's built on integrations only, and your
Mhm.
system is only going to be as sophisticated as those integrations. You need to monitor those. Something updates, something changed, they all break. It's a domino ripple effect. Not a bad thing, a consideration. But in that consulting call, you're able to say, hey, this is my list, but I want to think about, and then that overall shortlist review, one of our
Mhm.
team members will say, well, that's fine. These are the systems that would look like that in your shortlist review. And you
Yeah.
can review it with them, or you can review it on your own. It's totally up to you. You have that control.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to help people narrow a list of questions down to something that's helpful and useful. And I don't want to give anybody the impression that we're giving bulletproof answers to something that is going to become the only thing that matters to your implementation, because what software I cannot tell you enough times, what software you come back and choose is not going to be what makes or breaks your implementation. It just simply
Absolutely.
isn't. It's what you should be thinking about is how you want to implement it well and how you do a good job of implementing well. So
Mhm.
take the distractions off the table and saying, we have, what about all of these tools out there? I've had people come to me with lists of tools that haven't existed for 10 years. And
Mhm.
say, what about this one? Like,
Mhm.
when was the last time you used that tool? Well, I used it as in a previous one. Like, all right, we could add AS400 to the list if you want to. That doesn't exist anymore either. Um, don't go through the process of saying I need to look at the whole list of every single ERP provider out there,
Mhm.
because you're wasting your time and you're focusing on the wrong thing. Get
Mhm.
to a short list quickly and then be able to put yourself in a spot where you can think about how you're going to do it right, because that's what really matters. And when we get it right, we implement well and we use any software program
Yeah.
quite well. So
Mhm.
think of it that way, and that's what our tool is designed to do: free your hands to do the things that matter. Don't The things that are going to become distractions that are, well, what about this tool, what about that tool, what if we get the
Mhm.
wrong short list? That What if you get the wrong short
Yeah.
list?
Yeah.
What
You'll
if
figure
the
that out.
perfect software is
Yeah.
left off your short list and
Yeah.
you never knew it? It won't matter. It won't be that big a difference, because if you do your homework, you will find a tool that does fit, and you can start with a short list that's directionally accurate and formulated based on decades of experience
Mhm.
from a database that's designed for this type of thing.
Mhm.
And then you can focus on the things that you need to do.
Yeah,
Get it
it's yeah, sorry, go ahead. I was just
no.
gonna say it's still about discovery, to Adam's point, like, so this is to guide you as any AI tool is. It's a tool, right? It's not a
Mhm.
strategy. So you need to take what the tool says and you need to start being diligent and doing your due diligence about vetting these different tools, because no one knows your full requirements list but you, right? And so establishing that need, you still have to do the work of understanding what your strategic goals are. So many
Mhm.
times we go into and they're like, well, what do you think our strategic goals should be? And we're like, I don't know, man. Like, what do you want to achieve as a business? We can, coach you on
Yeah.
establishing those. But at the end of the day, we have some clients, especially some of our Rise clients, that are just, specifically going through Rise because they're treating it like an upgrade. And that's fine, right? Like you can treat Rise moving from ECC to S4HANA as an upgrade, or you can treat it as an opportunity to do a full business transformation. Those are two different approaches, but one is going to get you the optimization and the full potential of the software.
Mhm.
Other is just going to get SAP off your back and say, I'm on the HANA platform, relax, right? So you have to decide as a business where you're going and what your goals will be, and ultimately what you want out of this system. So,
Yeah.
building on that, I love this one. In my opinion, if you're in retail, the top four ERP providers should be NetSuite, D365, Microsoft Dynamics D365, SAP, and Odoo. How do these ERP systems use AI to enhance things like inventory management, improve demand forecasting, and create personalized customer experience? There's a lot wrapped up in that question, but this is exactly the point of this. In our opinion, everybody has a different opinion of what ERP system you should be using. It's like, everyone has a different opinion on career advice. Everyone has a different opinion
Mhm.
on the best operations, whether you're using EOS or different areas. It has to be what's best for your business. For example, these top four retail providers, I probably wouldn't recommend for some of them in retail. Some, maybe that makes sense. It totally depends on what retail you sell. And is it e-commerce retail? Is it brick and mortar retail? There's a lot that you have to like drill down, and our tool will
Mhm.
actually ask you those questions.
Well, and I think what's interesting about this question as well is it's actually telling us what the priorities are, right?
Yes.
Inventory management, improved demand forecasting, personalized customer experiences. Tell the tool those things are your
Mhm.
priorities. That's what you're focusing on. That's what you need, and it will help by pointing you towards the ones which do use that. Which ones use AI in those spaces? I would be more careful with that. AI is still something that's developing. So which one of those use AI and which one of them use AI well? That's a question that you should use the rest of your evaluation process to answer, right? How well those fit for you should be a part of your evaluation, and you should continue from there. That's the piece of the puzzle, right? You had to get to a short list, and then you had to start comparing. It's like I always like to compare ERP shopping to car shopping, because at the end of the day, you can say, I have these needs in a vehicle. And you can do a lot of homework beforehand and saying, this is the small list of things that fit those needs. And now I need to go drive them, right? So that I know which one fits that best for me. That's what you need to do. Get down to a short list, have somebody help you with a little bit of personal car shopping and saying, well, if you have a family of 8, that and then they all need to be plugged into the internet 24/7, then that narrows your needs, right? So what is that going to look like versus I'm a bachelor who wants to feel the wind in his hair, right?
It's like
That's a different experience,
yeah,
right?
it's a
So
Freudian slip for Adam. He wishes he was a bachelor with the wind in his in a sports car.
I've been driving the MG a lot recently. I've been enjoying that in springtime, but that's a different story. At the end of the day, think about what you need this for,
Mhm.
and then get a short list. And
Yeah.
then you still have to narrow to one. You should still do that diligently. You
Mhm.
don't just, here's the short list, I can throw a dart and pick one.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea.
No. No.
And the answer isn't because not any one of those 3 would probably fit. They probably all will.
Yeah.
But the real answer to that is, how do I know how that one's going to fit? So I know how my business is going to have to change to implement it well. Now we're going back to the root of the problem. How
Mhm.
do I implement whichever software I pick properly? And
Mhm.
then when I'm able to do that, now I'm maximizing my investment. Now I'm making a big deal out of it. As it always surprises me how many folks get to the point like, all right, now we know which one we're gonna pick. Let's sign it and let's start tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
do you know who your project manager is gonna
Yeah,
be?
but there's so much or, like,
What's
the
a project
seasonality
manager?
of your business. Every
Right.
time I talk to a company, it's like, "Yeah, this is our busy season. We're gonna implement a new ERP system." It's like, "Why? Why are you gonna do that to yourselves, to your employees?" Like, that you have to step back and take that kind of 10,000-foot view,
Mhm.
especially if you're the CIO, if you're the leader of these types of implementations. You cannot just put this on your team and be like, here, we got this short list. I want you to look into it and go. That is a terrible display of transformational leadership. That's not at all what we're looking for here. And I think digging into the AI piece of it, because all these questions are about, well, what about AI? What about AI? And those are good questions to have. It's good to be
Mhm.
curious about AI. The thing about it, and I'm using this question for an example, which is if your company were in hospitality, your shortlist would include something like Workday and Odoo. Question mark. How do these 2 ERP solutions use AI to optimize things like labor management, inventory control, and guest services? So these are 2 very different questions. Would your hospitality list include these? Maybe. It totally depends on how big you are, what your goals are, all of those different things. But likely, you're going to have a different AI application or system that's going to go in and look at things separately by business unit for labor
Mhm.
management versus inventory control versus guest services. So your AI system is likely not going to be at an enterprise level, especially right now if you're implementing a new ERP. Building
Mhm.
an AI at the enterprise level system is going to be a huge undertaking as well. So
Those
those
are
are
2 different things.
released. But it's good to continue to think about that. This tool is going to give you the core operations. Then you can start to look at what are some AI systems that we should consider. But you need that core before we can really look at the AI systems that are going to be smaller and layered on top of that tech stack.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, an AI transformation is something is very different from an ERP
Mhm.
transformation, right? And I'll use us as an example. the River AI has actually been out there for about a month now,
Mhm.
right? And then what we've done is we followed our own methodology for AI deployments, which is identify a use case that you're trying to serve
Mhm.
and get something up and running so that you can use it well, but use it quickly. And
Mhm.
then once you're up and running, find out where it is it can be improved and make
Mhm.
iterative improvements. For us, this launch of River AI as a more chat oriented discussion based tool is an iteration.
Mhm.
It's not the first try at
No.
it. It's been out there for a little while. We've been iterating. We've deployed this in an agile fashion, and we've been nimble with it.
Mhm.
What does that mean? That means that we've gotten better and better along the way. It also means that it's not perfect. So
Mhm.
folks like Arpan, who wants to remind people that you can talk to him about SAP solution advice and and get a free ERP transformation assessment. Great. That's all fantastic news. But what if SAP is too big for you? What if SAP isn't right for you? Oracle
Mhm.
just made big news by stealing more of SAP's partners and clients than they ever have before. That doesn't mean that that's the right fit for those partners, doesn't mean that that's the wrong fit. What you
Mhm.
need to do is do your homework. So somebody like Arpan can help you with that. We can
Mhm.
help with that. Lots of people can help with that. But doing your homework is the part of it that's important. So for us, doing our homework with River AI
Mhm.
means taking your feedback, adding to our knowledge base, continuing to grow it, and putting ourselves in a spot where we can give these things out and be more and more informed about it every day. That's always going to be our goal.
Mhm.
So when we
Mhm.
have folks that want and need help, we're here to give as much as we can. And if they need to talk about it, we're here to do that too. And if talking about it sets them on their way, perfect. If
Mhm.
talking about that identifies a bigger need that they want some help with, that's fine too. That's what
Mhm.
we do for a living. We do all of those things for a living so that we can help people who need to do things like find out what their shortlist should be so that they can
Mhm.
get a leg up and focus on the things that matter, even if the rest of the conversation doesn't even involve us, right?
Mhm.
We're here to help,
Absolutely.
and that's the
Yeah.
point.
And in that level of advisorship, we are not an SAP house. We are not any sort of software focused, right? We have no influence, nor we don't care what software you pick. If you pick a best of breed model, a monolithic ERP
Mhm,
model, and if you don't pick any at all, and you just need process work to
mhm,
enhance your other system, I think a lot of people forget that when they come to us, sometimes we say, the last thing, sir, you need is a new ERP system because you've got a hot mess of
mhm,
processes here. And that's just going to add a layer of stress and complexity to an
mhm,
organization that's already very tired of change. So maybe you can look at that in 2 to 3 years, but right now is not the time to do that. So and Adam and I opened the confidential under those pretenses that we built a culture that is focused on the client and the client only. Whether they're going
mhm.
to get engagement from us or not is not our first priority, right?
Well,
It,
yeah. Well, and
it's
the integrity side of it, I think, is
yes.
a big word, right? Like there are organizations out there that are going to tell you, I'm independent, I'm agnostic, I'm an independent agnostic ERP provider who's unbiased. Those are all great keywords. They sound fantastic. And you know what they do? They run a sister company that takes promotional credits from software vendors that pay them for their opinions. They
Mhm,
sponsor events with vendors. They take money under the table from those vendors for recommending that. So like that's all shady stuff. It's done with, and I'm not talking about any one particular company. I'm talking about many companies that I've had
mhm,
experience with in the
mhm,
past who come out and say, I'm unbiased. And like, well, then why are we talking about taking money from that vendor who said, I'll pay you X amount of dollars of the commission if you recommend our software?
mhm,
That's
mhm,
ridiculous. Am I
mhm,
here to say that we're not going to be in the mindset where we have our own opinions and our own biases? Actually, we're going to. We're going to be biased towards the things that matter, right?
mhm,
Some software systems stink. They just are bad. I'm not going to give a bad software vendor a good shake at a client that needs a good software. I'm
Mhm.
not going to provide an unbiased opinion on that because I am biased in the fact that some software systems suck. You know
Mhm.
what? Some system integrators suck
Yeah,
too.
I was just
I'm
about to
not
say, yeah,
I'm not
like,
unbiased in that either. I'm not
yeah,
like, what a ridiculous thing to say. I'm
yeah,
unbiased. I have no opinion. I'm
yeah.
independent. Well, in some cases, you should be biased. In other
Mhm.
cases, you should have your integrity in your hands and be able to say, "But I don't take money from people who are
Mhm.
who are just trying to buy a sale. That's not
Yeah,
fair. That's
yeah,
ridiculous." Anyway, I
yeah.
have a heated reaction to
You
that.
do? Is that a little triggering for you? Wait,
Are we at the
yeah,
40-minute mark, or are we past that? Because
yeah.
that's what
It's
this
a
feels like.
yeah, we're way past the 45 mark. So you had it building. We totally understand. But in all seriousness, that is our approach. And a lot of times,
Right.
that doesn't match other approaches. And to Adam's point, a lot of times we've talked about this at length, it depends on the VAR or the SI or the local team.
Mhm.
So you could have an amazing software, but a terrible local support team. We're not going to recommend that software because those partners are just as important to making sure that you're able to not only implement effectively, but then optimize and have that ongoing relationship, that ongoing support moving forward. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. This tool is to kind of cut through any sort of misunderstanding or bloating in those engagements where you call a bigger firm and they're like, yeah, for sure, for 50 grand we'll help you select a new software. And yeah, do you need some help on that? Probably at some point, right? But you can cut through a lot of that by saying, hey, I did my due diligence, I have this short list, and then you're able to have a main contact with our team and ask questions about it. And if that's helpful to you, that's great.
Mhm.
If it's not, that's fine too. It's all about just understanding and lifting the veil around transparency and overall discovery for this data that is not influenced by any sort of software funding or biases.
And
So,
if you're running a selection, bring our short list to your selection vendor.
yeah,
See what they
yeah,
say.
absolutely.
Go to
There's
front.
nothing wrong with having more information as well. So, just to wrap this up, I know, we're kind of over time. We're super passionate about this tool. The thing I would ask our network, if you're watching this, is please go ahead and give it a try and give us some feedback on it. Your opinions in our community is important to us. It's an
Yeah.
evolving bot. Every time we add a new data set or we add the existing data, we refresh it. It gives the tool better value to the marketplace. So we appreciate that feedback and welcome it in any form. You can reach out to Adam and I
Mhm.
directly at adam@theconfluential.com or Kyler at theconfluential.com. We also have info@theconfluential.com, which you'll receive your shortlist from in that overall process. But this is an exciting time, I think, for our industry to start to embrace these types
Yeah.
of client first technologies. And that's the overall goal of this conversation. Adam, any closing thoughts before we
Yeah.
wrap today?
Share this with your friends and come back. Right. We'll probably talk about this next week. We're super stoked about it. There's a lot about this it's impossible to wrap up everything that we have to say about this in an hour. We got so many questions about
Mm-hmm.
which system, which provider, this, that, and the other, that I think are fantastic
Mm-hmm.
questions, and we want to be able to address them. We'll probably do this again next week. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do it again the week after that, just to kind of make sure that we are conveying a message in this that shows how much it means to us to give something that should be free to people who need it, and that's important. And so stay tuned for more. I'm sure that we'll do a demo at some point in the future as well to show a little bit of the functionality itself and what it is we want it to be able to do, the questions that it does ask, what it looks like when you start thinking about what about this, that, and the other. What if I ask it this? What if I talk about that? And those types of things. So please feel free to come back, give it a try. Shoot me an email if you have any questions about it. If you have any comments about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're an ERP provider and you find that you don't like the answer that you got, send me an email
Yeah,
and
let's talk
send me
about it.
some information that helps
Yeah.
me understand why it is. you have a different opinion, and we'll bring that into the knowledge base. Not because those software packages stink, it should have said mine. No, tell me why it should have said yours, and we'll work on that, right? This is meant to create knowledge and meant to take and consolidate knowledge. So we're here to help. We're excited about it, and we're here to help you do the work that really matters, which is implementing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just a reminder, you can catch us every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time here in the US on our live streams. It's always driven by you. Bring your questions, bring your colleagues, share with your colleagues. You can also subscribe. Just as a reminder, a lot of people ask me, like, how do I get an invite to this? Well, it's on LinkedIn. As far as our events, you can find them on both my channel, Adam's channel, and at The Confluential. You can also follow The Confluential YouTube channel, subscribe there, and you'd be notified whenever we have new videos about River AI on our River AI playlist. So with that, thank you all for your amazing questions. Thank you to Adam for joining us today, and we will